Lovely stuff. The Clientele live in session with Reflections After Jane. Before I unleash Gid on you, Alistair, I did notice before your guitar technique, and I was thinking his guitar playing does remind me of somebody. You don't use a plectrum, but you don't even play it in the kind of way that most people play without a plectrum. And then you mentioned somebody not far from this parish who gave you the confidence to actually play like that.
Yeah, Vinnie Riley, because I learned classical guitar and I'd always thought of it as being something separate from pop music or rock music. And I think at some point in the 90s, I listened to the Girotti column and I thought, oh, you can do that. You can do that with a drummer and a bass player. And it's just one of those things that gives you confidence to do your own thing.
Yeah, your technique is so similar, and the, in between your singing, the vocal parts, it does sound just like Vinny's playing, which is a huge compliment. I will say no more.
And unfair to Vinny.
No, I'm sure not. I'm sure. Okay, Gid.
The new album, I'm Not There Anymore, for which the Quietus has quoted you as saying, Alistair, we bought a computer. Now, amazing scenes here at Clientele HQ. What was the thinking with introducing a computer to the whole proceeding?
I think that the last record we made, we had one member of the band, Anthony Harmer, who had a computer, and we just got a bit jealous of that. And what he would do was he would take the stems, the basic tracks that we recorded in the studio, and then take them home and seamlessly rearrange them. And we didn't realise you could do that. And if I said, how about we have a trumpet part, like a horn section, he would be able to score that on a computer. So I was watching really carefully, and I thought, well, I could do that too, maybe. So we bought one, and we did generally get it to work, I think. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Yeah.
The general agreement there. And I think, it definitely works on this record because it seems to allow you, and this may be to do with the time taken over this record, which we'll get to in a moment. It seems to allow you to bring in different elements to the record this time around, which may not have found their way onto Clientele records before.
Definitely. I mean, this thing called sampling, like we didn't really know about either. And so we could suddenly sample like records from my collection, like dub reggae records or flamenco records, or we could take ideas from contemporary classical records, and those things had always been out of our reach. We'd only ever been able to hint at them on previous records, and because they came into our reach for this record, we just pushed it as far as we could. We went for the full sub-bass sound that I would hear in North London playgrounds when I was taking my son to the playground. People, if I asked them what song it was, they would have slapped me, but I could get the sound when I went home,
Added to that as well, I mean, it's interesting, the opening number, Tales of the Silver Link, which sort of sets the scene for the record. Well, it definitely sets the scene for the record. It's the first number on there, and it's 8 minutes long, and it flows, and it also changes, and it changes again, and then it changes back again. Was that the start point for this record in terms of making the record?
It was the first song we recorded, funnily enough, and it was an ambitious song because it brought together lots of kind of different pieces of songs that were half finished and just slammed them all together. And then we put electronic beats over it and a horn section and a string section, and it really shouldn't have worked, but your listeners or anyone who buys the record can judge for themselves whether it does. But I think we thought, oh my God, this is actually working. It's quite impertinent of us to even try it, but it's come together in a way that sort of makes sense. And that was the first song, and from then on we were a lot more confident about just messing around, really.
What about when it came to sequencing the record and putting the tunes in order? And also, they are part of the record. There are some tantalising short numbers, instrumentals that go between some of the other songs on there as well. How did that become part of it?
Well, I think we need Marc to answer that if he's close enough to a microphone.
Is your microphone working there, Marc?
Here I am. Yeah,
there you are, Marc. Explain all, please.
Well, I work with piano, so I have a lot of opportunity to sit down and noodle. Not at work, obviously, but for me, playing the piano is relaxation, it's meditation, and so I just play, and the piano speaks to me, or you get something back from the piano, and then you go with it, and those little pieces just came out of little noodlings, but it's in a state of relaxation. So it's how I relax, and I hope when people hear it, they can relax too.
It's funny because drummers don't normally relax, do they? You know that. I mean,
certainly not tonight. I'm not.
All the drummers that I know sit there watching TV, slapping the legs and banging the bass drum on the floor. But of course, you are a piano tuner as well, working with pianos.
Yeah.
There is an old creature over there that could probably do with some
It's a
TLC
wonderful
from you.
Denman, a bulletproof.
Well,
So it should be.
do you know what I love? I love the fact that you're talking about you just discovering computers and samples at a point in musical history when a lot of people are moving on from that but going further back to analog. So it seems like you're living in a different space to many of the people now. Like, a lot of people are going back to using tape, aren't they? And razor blades and cutting things together. And you're going back to something that has kind of, well, obviously came along in the 80s.
Yeah, a lot of people have said I'm on another planet, my close friends. But yeah, I mean, we started off, we recorded with tape. We recorded with half-inch tape and 16-track tape long after most people had moved to digital. So I think we're just contrarians to our fingertips. We grew up in a little town in the suburbs and we had to be contrarians to survive, So generally, if I hear that everyone else is up, I'll go down,
Right.
So,
You'll be using guitar tuners next,
I know.
Slippery slope, I'm telling you.
The themes of the record will unveil. People can listen, and listeners can be taken on the themes as they occur through the record. There's a lot to do with memory. There's a lot to do with childhood. There's also, sadly and topically, a recurring sort of motif, which is land fires and bushfires as well. There was one particular moment that sort of triggered that a couple of years ago. Is that right?
yeah, I was on holiday in Spain, and I was in a town called Cerceria, and the next town along, or a little bit further along, is Avila. And it was the forest around there was on fire, and we walked out to have lunch at the nice outside table, and we thought it was raining, but it was raining ash. Yeah. And it reminded me, the image of it just stuck in my mind. I mean, it's not an ecological comment. It's not saying anything. It's just an image that became like a jewel. It just became hard and focused image, and it just repeats throughout the album. For some reason, it comes from somewhere.
Would you like to play another couple of tunes for us?
Yeah, thank you.